All right. I think it's recording. Cool beans. Oh, look,
hello.
it's a dog. It's the one that I haven't met.
Yup. My Texas baby.
Yeah, there's did you remember when I was playing with Fluffy, right?
Buffy.
Buffy. Oh yeah, that's right,
Yes.
the little werewolf. All right.
Yeah, Buffy the
So
Vampire Slayer. Come on now.
when I was playing with Buffy and I had the toy in my mouth and I was going, "Arr, arr," and then like you guys both yelled at her. You're like, "Hey, knock it off," because you
And you're
thought
like,
she was growling.
yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
hear a growl like that before. I don't want to
just
growling at you.
your dumb friend. That'd be me.
Yeah.
Okay, before we start anything, I have to make an addendum slash retraction from earlier this week. So I was wrong. His name. Okay, so this is about Diego Sanchez's trainer slash guru guy.
Okay.
Right. So he did a very long interview, like over 45 minutes with Luke Thomas. He was pretty candid in as much as a person like him can be. So my correction is I remember specifically calling him out for saying like wacko things like sticky and other stuff, right? So I remember I also said like Mark Henry calls out like Pikachu and he does like a four-piece combo. So he was doing that. Okay, so he had coded language that were set up for combos. I just want to I want to apologize to Joshua Fabia if he ever listens to this. He's not going to listen to whatever. But that being said, I don't retract anything else that I said. I still believe that Diego Sanchez could benefit from two other guys at least in his corner, like a jiu-jitsu guy and a striking specialist, as well as Joshua. Like couldn't hurt.
Did something happen to Diego's friends? Because I started following him on Instagram after that whole thing happened, just to like see what's going on, and it seems like he's just a little off. Like it seems like no one sat down and just been like, hey,
More than usual.
just it seems like no one's just sat down and been like, hey, dude, you're getting your ass kicked.
Yeah,
he seems to be adamant that he was not losing that fight.
so this does pertain a little bit to this weekend. We can get into the fights later, but Joshua specifically pertains to this weekend because do you remember Emil Meek, Meek? They call him the Viking. He fought. He
What weight
fought
class is he?
170.
Okay, I
He
know what you're
he
talking about.
yeah. So he was the guy who famously or uh, that he was the one that Kamaru Usman fought and took down the whole time, and then it was the famous 40% or 30% quote from him. That was that fight. So Emil Meek is fighting this weekend, and he trained with Joshua once. Like he went to Diego's training camp, and the story I don't have to go over it. I can just summarize it for you. Basically, they were playing like an extreme version of tag with like 8 guys inside of the octagon, which
All right.
okay. I
Yeah,
mean
fun.
it's a
Like
fun
a fun warm up thing. I get it.
that
Yeah.
would be fine right there, right? Okay, so
Yeah.
this was like an exercise and then Joshua went in there and he was like, "Okay, now I'm an animal and you got to avoid me." Like and then he was like, "Okay, and then I bring in a stick and then I whack them like I go after them with a stick." And then he brought in a blade. It doesn't say if it was a knife or a sword, but Emil Mech was like, "No, this guy came in there with with a sharp blade and was chasing us around for real." And then Joshua was like, "Yeah, when I can sense that they're just playing around, they're not taking it seriously. I just bring in real steel because the body acts different to metal. It reacts
Hey,
differently to metal."
hey, Brandon. Did they bring real steel into the fucking octagon? Is this that Hugh Jackman movie? Is he fighting
uh,
robots? Is
yeah,
like
that'd be great.
what?
Uh,
Uh, if you're trying to make it a scary thing, just do an 8-person, bare knuckle brawl in there. If that's what you're going for.
yeah, I mean that's just as
If it's
scary
just supposed to be
as
like a tagging, like, oh yeah, let's warm up and just get silly and play tag, grab ass. Like, just do that. You don't have to bring a knife into it.
playing touch butt in the park.
Yeah,
Um,
it
okay,
worked.
so I think the biggest fight this weekend is Deontay Wilder versus Fury.
Tyson. Yeah.
Right. So I'll let you go first. Based off the first fight, how like give me your perception of if you saw any of the build up to this fight and how you think this fight's going to go.
Honestly, I think Wilder gets it done in 8.
8. Okay.
Yeah, like I think Wilder gets it done faster. I don't think it's going to go 12 rounds unless Wilder's not going to win. If it goes 12 rounds this time, Wilder absolutely loses on the scorecard. But I think Wilder gets it done in 8.
Okay.
I think he sits back and waits for his shot. I pretty much think he just plays it a little more patient going into this one. And I think he gets it done in 8. And I think he drops Tyson down. And Tyson doesn't go full zombie and just get back up.
Pulls the Undertaker.
Because I can't remember the last person that Tyson fought, but I don't know if he is on the same.
Wado Valine.
Yeah. I don't know if he's going to be on the same level of comeback coming into this fight. Like, he was on some positive energy and, like, probably at his best going into the last Wilder fight. I don't know if he brings that same energy into this fight. I think that's the dependent factor. If he comes at it like his life depends on it, I'd give it to Tyson, but I don't know if he's there mentally. That's the biggest factor to me. So whether or not Tyson is there mentally for it.
So my read on it, based off with all the buildup, Tyson kind of downplayed a lot of the trash talk this time. I mean, he's still talking a little bit of trash, but not as much as he did last time. And then he also switched camps just a few weeks ago, leading up to this fight. Yeah, he switched camps. I can't think of the name of the camp, but basically he wants to be more aggressive, sit down on his punches, and put Wilder away. He wants to be the aggressor in this fight, and he doesn't want to play the boxing game for 12 rounds. So the way I've heard it broken down is that all right, so just my prediction, this one's really hard. I honestly it's a true 50, it's a real 50-50 pick for me. Just to be contrarian, I'll take Wilder. No, sorry, I'll take Fury. Just be contrarian, I'll pick the exact same guy.
I mean, like I said, it's a safe contrarian pick. I mean,
yeah, he's if he comes in this fight, so if I'm gonna sit here and make the argument for Fury, the way I'll look at it,
he's a better boxer.
Right. Well, no, not even that. All those factors still remain the same from the first fight. With the differences, so the ones you brought up, which make a lot of sense, where he was coming back, a lot of positive energy. He just lost all the weight. But remember, he only really had one tune-up fight against that tiny guy.
Yeah.
Like the dude our size. And that I remember the lead up to that fight was, is he in shape? Is he in shape? Turns out he was, and he did really well. Yeah. So given the current contract situation, because Wilder is kind of a free agent, but I think he's with PBC, or no, not PBC, Fox. So Fox and ESPN are coming together, and Fury has a contract with ESPN, and I think that's where a lot of the limitations of matchups have come from, because ESPN is having problems finding people for Fury. And they've kind of so honestly, what I think they've been doing for both fighters is kind of biding their time for this fight again, instead of doing the immediate rematch. The big difference is Deontay Wilder has fought world beaters, especially in Ortiz. Yeah. So even just the Ortiz fight alone, right? So let's not count the guy that he almost killed. Let's say Ortiz. When he fought him again, which is a dangerous fight, you end up with like a different, like to your point, the mindset where Wilder has been in pretty much 100, like going 100%, foot on the gas for the past 5-6 years, and Fury has been on and off. And then lately we've seen like him fighting not nobodies. They're really good boxers, but Fury is just, a level above them.
Everything is relative.
Yeah. Well, and I'm not here to tell you that they're like Waddle Veline or Otto Veline is going to challenge for a title. That's not what I'm saying. Ortiz, and here's the difference. Ortiz could, given the right circumstances and on any given night, maybe he could make
Ortiz,
the.
Anthony Joshua, that's an interesting fight. I'll say that.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. So Ortiz could beat any one of the big three, Anthony Joshua, Wilder, and Fury. Um, so taking all that into account, I still think Fury, given the more active schedule he's had, he's still relatively light, but again, with the change in camp, they wanted him to put on weight so he could like be heavier and hit harder. We'll see. We'll see
Yeah,
how
I don't
that
know.
translates.
Depends
I
on
mean,
how he puts on the weight,
dude,
given his history. Yeah.
he's a really athletic 6'7" guy. He's very. I think no matter how much weight he puts on, he's going to have that athleticism. And I mean, I think his cardio like is going to carry the 12 rounds just like it always does. And the way Wilder fights, his cardio also carries till the 12th round because he doesn't punch.
Yeah.
He sits, he waits, and then he kills you. So I'll take Fury. Um, you know what? I'll take Fury. I'll take Fury in 6. I'll say he puts it on him early. He gets Wilder on his back foot, which is odd for Wilder. And I say with a couple flurries, he can put him down. I know. That's crazy.
That's that. And I'll give it to you. That is crazy. But if there was ever a boxer with the level of skill to just come at Wilder, not get hit with the counterpunch, and put it on him,
Yeah.
it's probably just Fury, and that's it. Like his technical ability. If he wanted to do that, if he wanted to fight that way, he could probably just fight that way.
Yeah, so the way Ortiz fought Wilder in the first fight, I think he put Wilder down midway through the fight. I don't remember if it was the 6th or the 8th, but I do remember him putting Wilder down, and then, Wilder had that big comeback and ended up, putting out Ortiz. That's just a testament to Wilder's durability and his tenacity. So, not taking anything away from him. And of course, this is fighting, so anything could happen, and Wilder could, punch him in the stomach, and then his fist could go right through his body. So,
that is also interestingly likely. Let's be honest.
no, it's not. He doesn't throw body shots.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm.
God help the person that gets hit in the body by him, though.
Oh God. It's like it just punches your stomach up through your throat. Oh. My liver used to be on the inside. Now it's on the outside.
It's over there. It's somewhere. I'll find it later.
Can someone please go pick up my liver?
Some fans just put it on eBay. I need to get it back.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna watch all the fights leading up to it. There hasn't been a lot of push, and I haven't seen a lot of build up to the other fights. It's one of the reasons I haven't really been interested in boxing.
Oh.
It's the undercards are usually they're just so weak. Anything but the main event, they're usually just very weak.
I kind of always wonder, like, is it because boxing doesn't advertise much in America, or has the advertising efforts of boxing in America just proven that there isn't that much interest, so they focus in other countries to advertise the undercards or advertise the other fighters? And that's kind of what I was like. Is it like that in Mexico? Or if you're in Mexico City right now, or half the commercials, Wilder, Fury, and all of the undercard fights, like, that's something I'd be curious about. Or like England or some of the other countries where boxing is a bigger sport. Do you see more of that effort to get it out there?
So I'm too uneducated and uninformed about the subject to really make a judgment. But from my outside understanding, it seems a lot to do with the promoters and really highlighting their fighter and making them the star attraction. And because we have so many different promoters and so many different organizations, you end up not getting the matchups. You don't get a lot of fights between the top guys that often. And because of that, you're not going to see a UFC 200 or a UFC 100 where you have top to bottom stacked cards with, you know, 2 title fights, 3 number 1 contender fights. You're just not going to see that because those fights usually headline another boxing card. And again, this is an outsider's perspective. I don't have enough experience in the subject to really tell you.
Well, plus top tier fighter or top tier fighters at that level, they're not going to want to share the percentage.
Oh yeah, I mean that's the
There's a
thing.
good point to that. Like, if you're going to try and put on like a, if you're going to try and put Pacquiao on a Wilder card, I mean, how do you work out that percentage? Or vice versa. If you're going to try and put Wilder and Pacquiao on the same card, like,
Yeah,
you know, is it going to
yeah,
bring in enough pay-per-view buys to really make it worth it? It might not.
yeah. So that's a really good point because if you think about it, someone like Mayweather, right, the biggest draw in the past 10 years in pretty much all combat sports. You look at someone like him. What if he's on the card with, yeah, this fight, right? Like, what if he's on the
Like,
card with this fight?
imagine an Anthony Joshua coming up, you know, after he went pro and kind of won the championship right near the end of Mayweather's career. You know, would Anthony Joshua take an undercard to Mayweather and like,
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Is there's a how do you figure out the split? Because what you're really doing at that point, when it's the A side and B side of the main event, they deal with that directly. So, you know, if we're fighting and you're clearly the A side, you know, you're the dominant champion, you've been the champion, you're a pay-per-view draw, you know, it's going to be a 80-20 split or a 70-30 split, and that's decided in the contract beforehand by the promotions, right? Now, add into that another fight. How do we know how many people are coming to see the other fight as opposed to our fight?
and then add in other promoters for the A
Yes,
side and B side of that fight.
right. And I think oh, there we go. I think we just figured out why they don't do that.
Huh, it's amazing, right?
Not even 5 minutes of ill-informed deduction, and we figured it out.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's also a UFC this weekend, UFC Auckland, right? So the main event is Paul Felder versus Dan Hooker. So Dan Hooker
Good for Paul
is
Felder, headlining card.
yes. So Dan Hooker, who fights out of the same camp as Israel Adesanya. It's not City Kickboxing. Dang it, I'm an idiot. I don't remember, but he's fighting out of the same camp. He's a very good fighter. I don't know if I think he just won his last fight. He lost to Edson Barbosa. He was the one who got his legs kicked off against Edson Barbosa. Dan Hooker's coming off, or Paul Felder's coming off of a couple good wins, including a split decision, a little bit controversial against that same guy, Edson Barbosa. And this fight at 155 has a lot of implications in that top 5 because either one of these guys, if you beat either one of them, you're looking at like a no turning back kind of situation. Like you're not getting tune-up fights anymore unless you go on a skid. Your next fight, if you win this fight, your next fight is against like a world beater. So given your understanding of the situation, you let me like. Do you know much about Dan Hooker?
I don't know much about Dan Hooker, but I would say whoever wins this fight is probably gonna fight Poirier.
Poirier is angling for a fight with the real estate guy.
Who?
The guy who got his realtor license.
Why am I? That sounds complete. Like in the 155 division? Who the?
Yeah. Oh, poop. Dang it! Now I can't remember. Now this is so stupid. I don't know why we're doing this.
That's all right. I want to know now, so you have to tell me. But yeah, no. I think in terms of implication.
Al Iaquinta.
Oh,
Rage and Al. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, I see
So
that. That's a good fight. So
yeah,
I can see
but they
the
want to
winner
fight at 170. They don't want to fight at 155.
What are you doing, Poirier? Just hang out. Wait
Nope.
for
They don't want to cut weight. They want money, and they've been sitting around too long. They got to fight.
And that's kind of what I was getting at. Is Poirier's, he's prime for another fight right now too.
Yeah, he's been out for a while.
I don't know that either Felder or Hooker are gonna. I mean, it's kind of like you're saying, it's that step to the next step towards a title fight. Especially for Felder, I feel like he's right on that edge.
Well, Felder has been I don't think he's ever had a bad performance in the octagon. He's lost. I mean, he stepped up on short notice for one fight at 170, ended up losing. But he is a big dude. He's crazy, like a crazy good striker. He can get pinned down and held down, but I don't think Dan Hooker's going to end up doing that. I think we're going to see a striking battle here, and a lot of people are favoring Dan Hooker for a lot of reasons, good reasons. He's an excellent fighter. There's a lot of out of that camp. They game plan very well. They do so much right. They have two champions right now with Volkanovski and Adesanya. I see. There's obviously Dan Hooker can win the fight. There's no way around that. There's just something. I think Paul Felder's tenacity and his iron will, man. He just does not quit, and he hits hard, and he does a lot. He throws a lot of spinny shit. He throws.
So fun fact: within their last two wins for both of them, they both beat James Vick.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I want to look it up because I want to see kind of like where they were at, because they're both basically in like that realm of a couple win streak. Like they both had some good fights. Hooker just beat Ally Quinta, which I could see why now he wants to take a.
I mean, no, that's a good fight. That was a good fight. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, I can see where people are going with it from both ways. I mean.
Okay. So, they're both coming off of good wins, and Ella Quinta has had so Ella Quinta's last couple of fights. I want to look this up because he has had like a bad string. Yeah. Okay. So listen to the last couple guys he's fought. All right. So he fought Jorge Masvidal in 2000. So this is
poor guy.
It was a while ago. It was back in 2015. Right. So he fought Diego Sanchez in 2017. He won that one. Then he fought Nurmagomedov for the title.
We all know how that goes.
Yeah. It was a 5. He went all 5 rounds, and I think he only got taken down once.
Yeah.
Remember, he got his face jabbed off.
Yeah.
Anyway. Then he gets to fight. He fought Kevin Lee, won that one. Then he fought Cerrone, and he got head kicked into oblivion. And then he fought Dan Hooker and ended up losing the decision. Right? So, Ally Quinta is not an easy out for anybody at 155. He comes out of the Sarah Longo camp. He's tough as nails, and Dan Hooker's win over him is big. And I'm not underplaying Dan Hooker. He's really, really good. And I know, and everybody is so high on him right now, and I get it. He's really, really good. I can't say that enough.
Got it.
I just think Paul Felder.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is emotional for me because it's, because he's been in the UFC longer. He's never really got that, like, towards that title picture. And if he's going to make a run, or his time is it has to be now.
His time is now.
Yeah, well, it just has to be, because if it's not now, he's just never going to get that opportunity. And I think that's partly the reason that I'm leaning towards Felder winning that fight.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Let's see. Carolina Kovalevich is fighting. I think the strawweight division is kind of I've always found it interesting because it does produce some interesting fights for the women. But when they are there can be. It's like watching top level women's MMA because the level isn't quite there yet. This just the sport has not been around that long, right?
Yeah.
Once you get under the top contenders, once you get outside the top like 3 or 4, you're looking at mostly brawlers or very specialized type of fighters. So like a woman who can wrestle really well and does nothing else, or a woman who knows really good jujitsu and does nothing else. A woman who's a very good striker and does
Yeah.
nothing else.
I mean, kind of
Or
like most divisions of male UFC, you know, let's say 15, like 10, 15 years ago.
I was going to say early in the early 2000s. Yeah, it's.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the bantamweight division when Ronda Rousey was running roughshod through that entire thing. She was just fighting mostly brawlers, and
And
then
she was a specialist.
yeah, and she was just better at
Yeah.
her thing, and that's what I think that's where the strawweight division is. It's a little tighter now because women's MMA has developed a little bit more, and there's more of a feeder into it. So there's still there's a lot of good contenders, and what I'm saying is it's a very flat division. There's not much of a like a hill like when Joanna was like killing everyone when
Yep.
she was like shoving her toes in everybody's face. It
Good
was
old days.
it was hard to imagine anybody taking her down or beating her at all. And then Rose comes in and knocks her out. And it kind of just opened up the division. And ever since then, it's been, Zhang Wei Li is the current champ because she knocked out Andrade, who slammed Rose. It's kind of a fun division. So I usually enjoy watching the strawweights because any one of them could be, a number one contender fight. If one of them comes out and just starches the other with something crazy, you could look at a number one contender.
I also like how fast paced the fights can get in the strawweight division and some of the lighter weight classes.
Well, yeah, because they're only carrying around 115 pounds.
So
they got so much energy.
Yeah, it's like taking a welterweight and just pressing fast forward on the remote.
2 times speed.
Yeah.
So the aforementioned Emil Mech is on the card against Jake Matthews. He's fun. I like watching him fight. He's just a fun guy to watch.
For a fight night card, it's pretty good.
It's okay. I'm picking out like the things that I'm interested in. Of course, like who knows? It could be a bunch of knockouts.
Yeah. Not even just then. For just to have enough fights where you're interested in on a fight night card, I definitely don't mind that with the transition over to ESPN.
And the main event is at 6:00. So early, I can go to bed.
Is that 4:00 for me then?
Yes, sir. I believe so.
Nice. Well, good for me. I know what I'm going to do over lunch.
Yeah, I'm supposed to go bowling tomorrow night with my buddies, and I was like, oh crap, there's a fight, there's a UFC on. The boxing I can watch wherever too, and I think this is on ESPN Plus. I hope it's on ESPN Plus. Yes, it is. Sweet. God, I love Disney. I'm
right?
okay. I'm okay that they're my overlord. Like I really am. They raised me as a child, and now they're cuddling me in their arms as an adult. Like I can't get enough.
Do you know what's a fun fact I learned this week? Disney is one of the few companies in the United States that is exempt from the federal moratorium, or like essentially there's a federal law that was passed in the 80s that prevents private companies from forcing people to get polygraph tests upon employment. But Disney is one of the few companies exempt from that.
Why?
Yeah. Because Orlando has one of the highest concentrations of registered sex offenders in the United States.
Oh.
And so if you work for Disney in any sort of position that works directly with children, they make you get a polygraph apparently, because they have a federal exemption for that. Yeah.
So you're
also
telling me
probably
Florida,
some pretty good. Let's be honest, some pretty good lobbying dollars probably went behind that too.
So Florida is the destination for old people and registered sex offenders.
Listen, I'm not saying anything bad about Florida. I'm just saying it's weird.
Florida's like 3 different states, man. You've got like the
Florida.
Well, you got oh my God. You got the like Southern Florida, which is the Latin infused, the Cuban influence and
It's
a lot
the Caribbean.
Yeah,
it's the Caribbean with attached by land.
It's the only state in the United States that has a native parrot.
Yeah.
Yeah, a parrot. Like parrots live in the tropics. So that has that, and then there's Central Florida, which is kind of there's a lot of ranching. Actually, the largest open free range cattle ranch, like the classic with cowboys riding around getting cattle, is in Florida, not Texas. And then you have Northern Florida, and like this the Alabama swamp.
And then you have the Panhandle, which is
Oh no, that's the Alabama swamp. Northern Florida, I don't think it's that bad. Oh, and yeah, then you have like the
then you have
West Coast
Tampa
and the East
and
Coast.
like
Yeah,
like the Tampa to Fort Myers area, which is
vacation and
just
old people.
rich.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, um we went down to Fort Myers for our anniversary, not anniversary. Well, yeah, I think it was on our anniversary, but that was our honeymoon, like 3 years after we got married, and we went
Nice.
down to Fort Myers, and I remember on the second day, you just take trolleys everywhere. There's just a trolley that goes up and down Fort Myers, like to all the locations, so you don't really have to have a car or Uber or anything. So we hopped on the trolley on the second day, and the same guy who was there the first day, not the driver, just some dude sitting there. He was drunk both days, and I remember him having a long conversation with the driver. I'm like, oh no, like this is what people do down here. Like they just get drunk and then they never go home and they stay on the trolley.
That's awesome.
I like Florida though.
I do too.
The humidity is like it's something that you just get used to, and the beaches are nice. Generally, the people aren't that bad, depending on where you're at. And it's fine.
Listen, I'm weird. I like humidity. I probably just don't know why. Just fall into that realm, even in the summer.
Do you just like doing laundry constantly? Is that your thing?
Yeah, I like running in humidity more than dryness. I know.
Ew.
I know.
Well,
I'm weird.
I mean, when you do get a good sweat going when you're running, it does feel good. So I guess it does speed that up. Huh. I don't know. I'd have to test it. Let's go running in Vegas, and then we'll go running in Miami.
Yeah. See which one we like better.
Yeah. Oh, so I was looking, I don't know why, but I got on this like kick where I was looking up the history of Cthulhu.
Well,
and I was I
don't
know where it
came
came
to go
from.
there, but let's hear it.
Oh, okay. No, this is why. I was watching a thing on Bird Box, which I never watched. I didn't watch that movie with Sandra Bullock. Yeah, and they called it. Yeah, well, so they mentioned like the Lovecraftian style aliens or monsters that are in that movie, even though you never see them. There's like an artist who draws them in the movie.
Yeah.
Whatever. Anyway, so I was like, oh yeah, Cthulhu. He was in a South Park episode. I wonder where he's from. So I went down this like rabbit hole of looking up H.P. Lovecraft and a bunch of his stuff. And then I got this, which, oh god dang it, you can't see it now. I'm pissed. So
I can see it now. Hold on, just hold it up next to your face.
No, I'm just gonna unblur my background. Really
just lift it up a little bit more. No, stop getting so close. Fine. All right, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so it's his entire like all of his writings are in here. It was $11.
Wow.
Yeah. That was like I was expecting this to be like a little pamphlet style thing. Like when I ordered the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit.
Yeah.
Like they come together and they have they have like a nice little like set, and I got them for my daughter because she likes the movies and she's reading a ton. I'm like, oh, this would be fun. We could read this together. And they came and there's like these little tiny books with like the super thin Bible style pages. And I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Like this is relatively cheap and that's fine. That's what I was expecting this to be like. And it comes and it's like a freaking dictionary.
Just a legit book.
Yeah. For someone who doesn't read.
It's all right. You just use it to smack people in the face when you leave it on your bedside.
Yeah, it's hard for me to get into books I don't know why. There's been a few. The two that you got me. So, uh, the How to Fight Presidents. I couldn't put that book down. I read it
That's
in like a
that's a
couple
great book.
days. I know it's fantastic. The book is so good. So that's the. I think that is the only book where I was like, I just cannot put this down. I have to keep reading it. Since I was a kid and I read The Odyssey.
Well, there you go. I mean, just two books on equal footing.
Yeah, totally. They're like the same
Classics.
thing. You have Homer's The Odyssey, the tale, like the classic tale that depicts the hero's journey and pretty much sets up all Western fiction. And then you have how would Abraham Lincoln do in a wrestling match, you know?
By one of the creators of crack.com.
Yeah, oh, I think yeah. So my daughter was asking me the other day. She's like, "Do you think you could beat up the president?" Because we were talking about that book, and she's like, "Do you think you could beat up the presidents?" And I was like going through the list in my head of most of them, and I'm like, "I think I could take most of the presidents." And then I thought a little bit harder. I'm like, "Wait a minute, Teddy Roosevelt could definitely kick my ass."
Nah, I think you'd be surprised.
Mm, I think Teddy would whoop my ass, and for sure Lincoln could because he was a wrestler. He was insanely strong, and he was 6'7".
Yeah.
Yeah, he would whoop me. It wouldn't even be close. George Washington was huge for the time. Like he was 6'3". He's a legit big dude. But
Are you taking him in his prime though, or when he was president?
see, it doesn't matter because everybody was so malnourished back then. I bet you their cardio sucked. I just got to take it in the later rounds, and I got this.
Yeah. The only other one I'd throw out there is maybe Ford, just because of
Oh yeah, he was a football player.
yeah, like pretty high level college football player.
Yeah, he was a really strong guy. Also really clumsy, according to the book.
Yeah.
He was a klutz. I think the first quote was like, um, yeah, Ford, he will accidentally kick your ass. Yeah, hello, kids,
I'm
man.
trying to think
Yeah,
who else. Jackson, probably, just purely because of his ability to commit to violence. Like, yeah,
maybe. Oh yeah, she asked me. So like, could you beat up the guy on the $20 bill? That's Hamilton, right? I'm pretty sure that's
Hamilton's 10. Andrew
Hamilton.
Jackson's 20. Yeah.
Jackson's 20. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's like, could you beat up the guy on the $20 bill? And I'm like, I'm pretty sure everybody on the everybody other than Lincoln, like I'd be okay with.
I think Jackson was the only president to kill a man while he was in office.
That was a duel though?
No, that was before he was president. He beat a man to death when he was president with a cane. Because
Oh,
he,
okay.
yeah,
Well,
the
weapons.
dude.
No, we're talking about bare hands here. We're not talking about weapons. That's
If I
not
remember it
fair.
correctly, the dude went up and tried to shoot him while he was president with two pistols, and they both misfired. And then Jackson just beat him to death with a
Oh, I
cane.
do remember that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Which, come on.
I like the idea of the duel, and I think it's really interesting because we have this I would say romanticized, but it's not really like a romantic endeavor. But
No.
we have a romanticized vision of it, like where two guys put their back together, they took, 10 paces, they turn and shoot, and then that's the end of it. Turns out that's never how it ended. Like the guns were terrible, the guys
Oh, yeah.
couldn't shoot, the
Most
bullets,
of
even when they hit, they didn't land vital shots. Like usually someone would just quit.
yeah, or they just shot into the air. The death rate was minimal.
I know, that's what's
There's
crazy.
there's a reason they stopped having duels after they developed rifling. Just saying.
Yeah, yeah.
Once the 6-shooter came around and there was rifling and rounds could actually hit what you were aiming at, all of a sudden duels came out of practice real fast.
Oh man, I find classic confrontation and problem solving is so much more interesting than what we do now.
Oh yeah.
Like I understand, and I'm gonna do the eye roll. I know it's more civilized, and we shouldn't be punching each other in the face. I get it, and I'm not saying we should, but it's really fun to read about.
Honestly, like, there's occasions for it. There is something to be said for like solving something and actually settling it with a quick punch to the face and like it being over versus years of psychological abuse from online torment. Fucking
Yeah. Okay.
Just say,
I know.
yeah.
No.
Oh,
I get
I
it.
don't know. Like it's all. I would say it's there may be like a point in time where it was at its most civilized, but I feel like the internet's kind of like taken us a little step back. Kind of like how life expectancy has taken a little hit recently. Like for the first
Yes.
time, it's going down a little bit. That's kind of I feel that way a little bit with like civility too. Like, I think we've taken a little hit recently. Like,
Yeah. No. No. Okay. Okay. Yeah. For sure. But I and I know the Greeks are not the epitome of civilization like people make them out to be. They had so many issues that people just gloss over. But I did like the wrestling that they did.
oh yeah,
Like they had an event which was the first Olympic Games. The first Olympic Games was held because the warring states of Greece were sick of killing you. Like the leaders, like, guys, we're just killing too many people. Like we've got nobody to come home and do farming anymore. Like we got to do something different.
yeah.
It's like, well, I still want to punch you in the face. Okay, so let's do it in like a controlled environment. Let's just have games then. So they had the running and they had a lot of the classic events. They even had what we would consider, with Greco-Roman wrestling. But they also had the epitome of Greek culture, which people put up on a pedestal. Oh crap! Which people put up on a pedestal for uh, like civilizations. They put it up there as like this is how we need like how we should be living. The peak event, the event that everybody looked forward to was called the Pancration, which was essentially no holds barred fighting. So
Yeah.
MMA,
Pancrase. Yeah.
completely circled around. Stupid Mike. Oh man, my headset died. 2 seconds.
And now from a word from our sponsors.
Ugh, so annoying.
Oh wait, we don't have any.
Definitely should keep all this in. This is gonna be great video.
I know, right?
Me searching for frickin' headphones.
You can see a blurry Brendan in the background, unable to find anything in his house. Unfortunately for all of you, we don't quite have editing down yet, so you're just gonna have to sit through it with us.
All right, I got to do some editing. Good grief.
I don't know.
Okay,
I feel like my commentary was great.
I should keep all this in. All right. Yeah. So the epitome, like the event that everybody looked forward to, was the Pancration, and I think that's funny that the event, like the civilization that has been propped up as like how the start of democracy and all the other things, essentially started MMA, like organized MMA.
Yeah.
And we live in a society now that, like, let's be honest, like a lot of people still look down on it. Like like that's cage fighting, it's human cockfighting. Like that's inappropriate. Like they can't do that.
I'd say not as much anymore. I don't know. Like, is
No,
there
oh
really
no,
that?
it's gotten better.
Yeah.
No, well,
I do remember those days when people were literally like actually looking down on it. And now we've gotten to the point where people are like excited for bare knuckle fight coming out, which whew, even I was a little bit like, I don't know, y'all.
so the bare knuckle thing, I think I actually have a couple reasons why this version of bare knuckle, the one that we have now, like BKFC,
Yeah.
isn't okay.
Please.
One, they wrap their hands. That's bullshit.
Yep.
That's bullshit.
That's not bare. It's literally not bare knuckle.
No, you're wrapping up their hands in a cast and you're just giving them a new weapon that like they don't have to worry about throwing a bad punch and breaking their hand as much. Obviously, they still break easier than in gloves, but the whole point is when you have a bare knuckle fist, like when they used to do pancration fighting or like Pancrase, when they had, you know, the first UFCs. Like, you can't just wildly wing punches, because if you hit someone on the top of the head, dude, you're gonna crack like a bone in your wrist. You're gonna break like some of your fingers. You're gonna break your knuckles. A lot of that stuff is not meant, like the human fist was not meant for punching.
Yeah.
It's just not.
It
It's
sucks for
meant.
it.
No,
Yeah.
it. We have very dexterous fingers meant for
Yeah.
fine motor skills. That's why we can play instruments and do things like that. They're not made for just punching the shit out of like really hard objects like a face. So
It
that's the
it
first
doesn't
issue.
go well.
The second issue I have is the fact that they are um, limited to boxing techniques. I I don't know why they decided bare knuckle boxing was the way to go. Why didn't they just go with it? So this issue is more of a like a personal one. It's because like it's like an opinion one, but it's still, I think this is one of the reasons why I don't like it. Is there's no grappling allowed.
Yeah.
Even if you made it like Muay Thai, if you made it Muay Thai with like a clinch and elbows and stuff, it opens up the game and you're not limited to just punching with your hands. And it changes the entire game and it makes it more well-rounded. And I believe it would be a way more interesting league than just like retired UFC fighters going in there and punching each other in the face for no money.
Here's the problem. If you end up having that, it's probably just gonna get dominated by non-boxers, and you're not gonna see a lot of. I don't know if you'd really see a lot of knockouts at that point, because if it's for the win, I imagine people are just gonna get taken down.
Okay, so
If
let's
you
not make
if
it
you open it up
MMA.
to
Let's
grab.
make it well. So let's not make it MMA. Let's make it modern kickboxing or modern Muay Thai. You know,
Yeah, and
uh,
I'd be interested in that. Just no gloves, Muay Thai or kickboxing.
that's what I'm saying.
Allow
Like
for
they have,
allow for the clinch. Allow for
yeah.
holds and stuff. Yeah.
Like I don't know, maybe what your hands are made to do, grab things. God dang it!
I mean,
Like
if you really wanted to get interesting, I would team that up with combat jujitsu. I would pair both at the same event. So if you
huh?
want to like present an alternative to, UFC and present an alternative for like, hey, check out these forms of combat sports. Because you got two communities that are both interested in the UFC but looking for something more pure and what they like. I would just pair those two up onto the same night.
Yeah, just like a special, like it's a more specialized skill set, and
Yeah.
it kind of takes you away from.
So then you get to
So
see some of the like high level grappling and high level kickboxing all in the same night, but with people at the height of their level sticking to what they do best.
yeah, okay, so that's, yeah, I could imagine that then, because then you end up. Let's be honest. You're a casual fan, including me. I'm not gonna say that I enjoy a guy sitting on top of another dude for 5 minutes and doing nothing. I don't enjoy that. I enjoy
Yeah.
like him trying to pass the guard, moving forward, trying to advance and finish the fight and go for a win. Like that's
Yep.
what I like. I don't like stalling. I don't like it. But
Yeah.
hey,
I like EBI. I think it's a great model. EBI in
exactly.
combat jiu-jitsu is where it's at.
So but what I was saying is like I don't want to exclude myself from like so far away saying like, oh, only casual fans don't like grappling. Like that's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying the more casual fan who comes to, you know, the UFC for like the brutal nature of MMA, right? They kind of want to see striking. Like you hear it all the time. And it's evident in every single event, no matter what state they're in, no matter what country they're in. They hear in Brazil, right? The home of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. If someone's on the ground for too long, all you hear is boo.
Yep.
Come on, man.
Do you want do you know what jiu-jitsu and like high level grappling is like? It's like golf. People that
Yeah.
like it
Okay.
are not only people that like it both play it and are balls deep in it. Like
Yeah.
the people that
Okay. Yeah.
watch the
Yeah.
Masters, they play golf and they fucking love golf. People that don't play golf usually don't watch golf. It's not as interesting to someone that doesn't play golf. So grappling and jiu-jitsu isn't as interesting to people that don't do it.
Yeah. I would
Because
agree. There's
you don't understand what's interesting about golf if you don't play it. And I'm not, I play golf. I like playing it. I will never watch it on TV because I think it's boring as fuck. And that's probably still true for people that are balls deep in jiu-jitsu. Like, there's probably some of them that are like, listen, I love it. Can't watch it on TV. I'll watch live events. I'll go to, tournaments. Can't watch it on TV. That's probably still true for them too.
I will watch highlights the same way, and this is
Same way you'll
I'm
watch
the same
highlights
way.
of the Masters.
That's what I'm saying. I will watch highlights of very long sporting events, which are all sporting events now. You know, when you're talking about a football game, I don't watch football. Let's use basketball. So a basketball game takes what, 2 hours to complete, even though it's only an hour long.
Yeah.
Not even 48 minutes or whatever. So like it takes an hour and a half, 2 hours, depending on like if it's a playoff game and they have to run commercials and they have a long halftime show, blah, 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 blah. I can watch the highlights in 9 minutes and see all of the action and all of the actual gameplay. It's the same thing with jiu-jitsu. I'll watch highlights from high-level grappling tournaments, and I get to see some of the upper echelon guys. When I think it was when Gary Tonin went against Husamar Palhares, I watched that whole match, and I would consider that. That's what I mean. Like that's a highlight to me is that match, right? I'm not going to sit there and watch every single match. Some people I don't know. Maybe they're really good matches. The name doesn't carry any weight with me, so I'll only watch the ones that I'm interested in, and I do that. But yeah, I understand that people don't want to see that stuff if they're more of a casual fan. And
I don't necessarily think it's like a indictment on someone like saying, "Oh, you're a casual fan." Like, I can just completely understand how it's not interesting to someone that doesn't do it. Just the same way golf isn't interesting to someone that doesn't do it. Like, doesn't. I'm sure there's plenty of people. Yeah.
Especially with jiu-jitsu.
But there's people that still tune in to watch Tiger and the Masters that didn't play golf. Just if there's someone on a good enough level to where they have that draw. Yeah.
Yeah, at least with golf, there's action that you can see, and now, so golf is a very intricate sport that people who play it. So I grew up golfing a little bit. I was never on the golf team, but my grandma lived in like off of a golf course in Hilton Head, so I golfed a lot as a child, and I understand how difficult it is to control the damn ball. So seeing someone put it in like a 4x4 square area consistently, it's impressive knowing how difficult it is. It doesn't mean I'm going to sit there and watch it. So I understand for the more casuals why they don't like jiu-jitsu too. It's like, if you don't understand anything, because I'm not a master, I understand a little bit. I've done it, off and on. So I understand more than your average person. But that's where the commentators come in, man. Like you get like someone like Dominic Cruz. I think Joe Rogan gets a lot of flack for being too much style and no substance lately. And part of those criticisms are true. He was a part of the UFC in a time where they needed Joe Rogan, and I think you don't have the UFC without Joe Rogan.
Oh yeah.
I
Absolutely.
At least not the way it is, and that's just a testament to just his character and who he is as a person. And nowadays, it can kind of take away from the broadcast when he gets he gets tunnel vision, man. He sees one thing. Like when I was watching the Reyes fight, he gets tunnel vision, and he's like, John Jones keeps walking forward. He keeps walking forward. I'm like, yes, but he's getting punched in the face, like just because he's walking forward. And he's not judging the fight, but he's coloring. He's the color guy, so he's coloring that fight as a John Jones fight, and that's what John Jones is doing, and that's what he wants. Fine, like,
do the judges hear him? I've actually never.
I don't. I think they're supposed to have headphones on, and maybe not. I don't know now. But what I was
because like you don't hear him if you're live at the event. So do the judges hear him?
I don't think so, unless they're really close. But I don't think they're super close. I think they're on three sides. But what I was getting at was when it goes to the ground, Joe is as good as any other analyst at keeping me engaged, and it doesn't take much from me, but he explains like what that person needs to do, what's going on the ground, because he loves jiu-jitsu. He really does. He loves striking, he loves MMA, and he loves all of it. But you can tell when it goes to the ground, he gets into analyst mode, and he's like, like right now he's got to pass the guard, or he's got to he's got to regain guard. He just keeps sitting on the bottom. He's just waiting for them to stand him up. He does such a good job with that.
Yep. Oh yeah, I like when the UFC sold. If it wasn't for Joe Rogan coming into it, it probably would have sold for at least $1 billion less than it sold. If I was going to ballpark it, let's be
Yeah,
honest.
man.
Just because of the platform and how much he's built up different UFC fighters over the years that have been able to go onto his podcast and kind of the broad
Yeah,
reach that
now,
he's
yeah.
brought, I would say, yeah, I think it's had a pretty big impact both in the ring as well as outside the ring for how
I
he's,
think he does have the #1 podcast in the country pretty consistently.
especially year to year. Like, yeah,
Yeah, I think his record is Elon Musk with 20 million.
yes.
Dude,
For very good
that's
reason.
insane.
Yeah.
I mean, what does the Super Bowl get?
But even just like, a casual show, like for how many episodes he puts out,
1 million
and
each,
how
at
consistent,
least.
yeah, and how consistently he, is able to put on, like, he is pretty much the background for when he brings on a fighter. Like he introduces them to the world in a way that the UFC doesn't, and he's done that pretty consistently throughout his career. When he brings fighters on his podcast, like,
Yeah,
yeah,
a lot of the
he
time
creates fan bases for them.
I was about to say, a lot of the time, like, I might not be a fan. My voice just cracked. That was good. A lot of the time, like, a lot of these fighters come on and I'm just not a fan. Before they get there, like, they said something weird in a broadcast and it just irked me.
Mm.
I just don't like him for whatever reason. It's just a personal thing and something set me off and I'm just like, I just don't like that guy now. And then they'll go on Rogan's podcast. I'll hear him talk for a couple hours. I'm like, oh man, I really like this dude. Like, I like the way he thinks, or man, he's an interesting guy. So, yeah, he has made me a fan of what, dozens of fighters at this point.
Yeah.
With all the people he's had on, and even when he has like trainers on, and they talk about like their fighters, and I've gone back and watched fights, or like old fights, or I've gone back and looked up fighters that I never heard of before because of his podcast, and I'm able to like he's creating awareness that the UFC just doesn't have. I don't know if they don't have time because I think they do. I don't know if they have a person that can do that.
And also, let's be honest, how much of MMA media and MMA reporting comes from just snippets of his podcast?
Yep. That's kind of.
So like,
it's not lazy, but
when the
they're
UFC
doing their
sold
job.
for, $4-something billion, yeah, I don't know how much of a cut. Like, realistically, he probably should have gotten a kickback from that or something.
Yeah.
Because he was a big part of that.
Yeah, I mean, if he got just like 10 million, like if they just kicked him 10 million, like, hey man, thanks for everything that you've done. But I mean, I'm sure he's got a kick-ass contract with them. He only does stateside events now. He only does the pay-per-views, and it gives him a ton of freedom to do what he really loves to do. And he loves the UFC, but he doesn't like traveling and feeling like crap and not spending time with his family. So
he's got his best life worked out.
Yeah,
I think that's apparent.
Yeah, I think he's 52 now. So he has done something that, pretty much probably over 90% of people in this world will never do. Is just work their ass off to get to a point where he has what I would call an active retirement.
Yeah.
Because he was grinding when he was younger and he was on the TV shows, which he did because he enjoyed being on them, but like that wasn't his passion, that wasn't his love. Like he loved stand up and he found some of them later in his life. Like he hunts now and he does all those things, and he found jujitsu late in life too. Like all these things, he gets to just he gets to just experience life the way he chooses to experience it every single day, and he gets to talk to amazing people, and we all get to listen to it. So yeah, that's like, there's a roundabout way of saying, like, I know he gets flack. I am a fanboy. Obviously, I listen to so much of his stuff, so it's hard not to be. But I'm not stupid and I'm not blind. Like if someone says something and does an actual analysis of like things that he says or his platform or whatever stuff, like I can be somewhat bipartisan and listen to it. But dude, he gets so much flack all the time, and I think it's just because he's popular.
Oh yeah, it's easy to hate on him. There's no doubt about that. And it's also ridiculous to think like, yeah, he said some dumb shit.
Of course.
Yeah, he's probably had out of his like 1,400 episodes, he's probably done at least 1,000 of them high
Yeah.
or drunk.
Plus his MMA ones. He's almost
Yeah,
up to 100 now of just
yeah.
MMA, and that's like, oh my God, I think he has close to 1,500 podcasts, if not more.
And so he's literally done. He's hit the point where he's done 10,000 hours of podcasts.
Yeah.
Like he's done the no shit 10,000 reps on it. Like yeah, he's definitely had some falters early in his career, and he's had some fucking weird ones, and he's had ones where I've been disappointed. Like man, I wish he would have pressed that person more. I wish he would have called them out because that sounded like complete bullshit.
Yeah,
But
I
I
mean,
also get to the point where he's not trying to like create a confrontation in his own space. He goes about doing it how he goes about doing it, and that's his business. But like, yeah, the idea that like people try and frame it as like people that listen to him just blindly follow whatever he says and like just
I'm sure
agree
there's
with
people that
whatever.
do that.
I
But I enjoy when he's on the broadcast. Uh, most of the time, I do enjoy his commentary. But like I said, there are certain fighters, like whenever Mighty Mouse fought, oh,
yeah,
dude, every single time. It was no matter what the fighter
he's
did.
trying to sell Mighty Mouse.
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
appreciate that because Mighty Mouse deserved the hype. He really did. I still, to this day, I think Mighty Mouse is the best martial artist that the UFC has ever had, and I'll put him up there with literally anybody else. And you can say, oh well, he was in the lighter weight classes, so he doesn't have the consequences. I understand that. He's the most complete. He dominated a division full of killers. Everybody talks about that, how the division is weak. It's not weak. He made them look weak because he was so much better than everybody else, and they were elite. Those
yep.
guys, those guys were elite. Every single one of them that he fought, they could beat if you put them up another, like if they change their body type and put them up a couple weight classes, barring any other changes, right? We're talking top 5 contenders, we're talking champions in every other division, and he demolished them. He made everybody look stupid. So I understand why he wanted to hype him up, but man, like I don't remember who he was fighting, but it didn't matter what that person did. If they went in there and kicked his leg and like Demetrius Johnson's leg fell off, like Rogan would be like, this is a great technique. Cause so what Demetrius Johnson is doing right now is like he put his leg in the corner on purpose so that he could fight one-legged against this guy. It's like, God dang it, man.
And just yeah, he brought it. He definitely brought it. But I mean, yeah, it was fun though.
Yeah,
And like
I miss DJ in the UFC
I do too.
because
I'm disappointed about how that went for him.
I mean not for him. He's doing fantastic. He's getting paid. He's got a whole new fan base, and he's a streamer and he plays a ton of video games,
Oh yeah, I
and
mean
he's
that
loving.
aspect of his life is great.
That's what I'm saying. He's
Yeah.
loving life, man, and like that's fantastic. It's a bummer for me personally because I enjoyed watching him fight. I thought he beat Cejudo in the second fight,
I
and
I wish we'd seen a trilogy.
yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the commentary on the second fight. I had more of a problem with DC because he was calling I think they're Granby or Granby rolls. It's a wrestling escape.
Yeah.
So when you do that, apparently in wrestling, when you do that escape, you lose a point because your back is exposed to the mat or whatever. But it's not freaking wrestling, DC.
Yeah.
It's not wrestling, man. Like he's escaping and Cejudo has no control. And I don't have the fight fresh in my memory. Obviously, it's from 4 years ago or whatever. But I do remember DJ kicking his leg off the entire time, putting it on him. And the only thing Cejudo really did to him, like I think in my book, I think I had him winning one round, maybe two, when I scored it when I was watching it. I thought DJ just like almost straight up destroyed him again. And when he ended up getting traded over to the ONE FC, I was really sad because I liked watching him fight. And
Yeah.
that division, it's doing better now. You got Joseph Benavidez and everybody stepping up again, which is fantastic because like they're, if it's not for if it's not for DJ, Joseph Benavidez is the champion, and I don't think anybody beats him because he beats Cejudo. like,
Yep.
like Joseph Benavidez is the 125 champion for the past 7 years or whatever. But DJ was there and he just shut everything down, man. He is so good.
Yeah. Good old days. I do
I
miss
know.
that.
All right, so we got
So-
boxing this weekend, MMA this weekend. Do you have anything else?
Yeah, I'm curious, just because you were talking about Rogan. Have you found any new podcasts recently that have caught your interest?
Mr. Sunday Movies does a podcast. They don't just have a YouTube channel.
Mhm.
So Mr. Sunday Movies, like you watch it too. They do great videos on YouTube. Like
Yep.
I love them. They're freaking hilarious. But they also have the longer version, and it's a great way to like wind down at night, and it doesn't, because there's no. I've been trying to really avoid screens like right before I go to bed.
All right, so I'm going to give you a piece of advice, which has changed my life. When the moment you get into your bed, your phone is on its charger and you never pick it up again. And that is where you read. You keep a book on your bedside table, and the moment you get in bed, your phone goes on a charger, you don't look at it again, and you read. That's it.
But I don't wanna.
Your two things going to happen. You're going to read books, and you're going to sleep like a baby, and you're just going to pass out.
Fine, I'll try that tonight.
It's life-changing. Like, legitimately, it's like I can't remember the last time I laid in bed and couldn't sleep. Because the moment I'm tired,
I usually don't have that problem.
Yeah, but like the moment I'm tired, the phone is gone. I put the book down, read like 25, 50 pages, and then I go to sleep. No screen.
My comprehension level is at a college level. I know, big talk for a 30-year-old man. I know. I can read words like extrusion. Woo. No, so like my comprehension level is like I can read books at pretty much any level, so it's fine, right?
Yeah.
But I have a really bad issue with tracking. So when I read one line, my eyes automatically, when I go back, this happens probably about 50% of the time, which it's a lot. So it's worse in textbooks. And I don't know if it's the print or the subject matter or what it is. But what'll happen is I'll read one line, and then your eyes go from that side, and then they come back, and I'll read that same line over and over again. And I'll read the same line like 2 or 3 times. And I know I'm reading the same line.
Hey, bro, I think you're dyslexic.
I might be. I actually might be.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, are you trying to just tell me you're dyslexic? That's cool.
No, well, see, letters aren't jumbled up. I don't have a problem with letters being jumbled up or comprehending words. I do notice my oldest has the same problem I do, where you know how your brain fills in context, like it'll read ahead, like it'll think ahead.
I think
so when you're reading something. No, I know. That's what I'm saying. And then when you get to the next word, like if you see on like something where there's 4 words and you read the first 3 and your brain's like, oh, I know what the next word is. And then you read the first 2 letters and you're like, yep, that's definitely what it is. And it's not that word at all. And you just like fill in the gaps. My oldest does that all the time. And I notice I do that nonstop. And I end up having to reread things quite a bit. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons why I don't read is it's hard for me to stay engaged into a book when it takes me forever to get through a page. And it's not like I read slow. I can read pretty quick when it's going well. I might have dyslexia. I don't know.
Come on. Have you noticed it? Do you have a Kindle or anything like that?
I do, and I've done digital reading. It's worse.
Is it worse for that?
Yeah, it's way worse. If I'm not holding a book in my hand, I've tried. So
I first of all, I can't Kindle. I hate digital books. Get them out of my face.
Yeah, I appreciate the technology, and I understand that it's saving the planet. I'm not going.
Is it?
Yeah, because Amazon's pretty bad, but but there's something about a book being in my hand. And this is coming from someone who doesn't read a lot. So the little I do read, I cannot read digital unless it's a like an article. I can read a small article like online, but I can't read a full book. And one of the biggest issues I had in school was when we had only like we would only have like a digital version of the book, or if I bought the physical one, it would cost me $250.
Oh
I'm like,
yeah, God, I hate
I'm like,
that.
okay, well, I have a $1,000 budget for this entire term, and this is a quarter of that. I can't buy, like, I'm not going to be able to buy this book. So what we would do is we would like get the digital one, and like I would print them. I would just print. I would use all my printing tokens. Or here's a key. At your school, guys, you can take a printer, like a USB-C cable, and plug it into the back, or USB-A cable, plug it in the back of the printer. You don't have to use your printing credits. Anyway, so you could just print 500 pages.
Oh, there you
Like
go.
yeah. So, but I
Highball
did
feet.
I did the right thing here. I printed up a physics textbook, every single page of it. There's a lot, and I put it into a binder, and I left it in the lab. So anybody could use it, and it's still there now. People can still use it. So it's not like I took it home with me and I was just printing up a ton of books. But I, I had a real problem in college trying to read. Hey, there's the werewolf.
I'm still
Maybe
listening.
maybe I'm dyslexic.
You might like I wasn't really joking there. I was like, that sounds like you're dyslexic.
Shit, that's not good.
Yeah, you'll be fine.
I
We've
mean,
had presidents that were dyslexic. They were fine. They got away with it.
so many comments. I'm just not gonna go there.
I
We've
didn't say
had
any names. Don't look at me.
no. I'm just saying, like we've had presidents with way worse things than dyslexia, and I'm
Fun
not
fact.
talking about polio.
Yeah, they're left-handed.
Oh God.
You know, 5 of the last 7 presidents were left-handed.
Ew.
I like how that's your. Just like ew. Yeah. Okay.
Well, they get dirty hands. People who are left-handed, they always have dirty hands from writing, like because they get pencil lead or ink all over their hands. No, that's not why I meant you. Um, it's
Isn't
it's
that
there's
weird?
something. Yeah, okay, it is weird. Oh, I read an article. So I did some research because I was curious. So there's in hockey is what brought it up for me. I was like, why are so many people left-handed in hockey? Like there's so many. Like there's nobody with the right stick. Everybody has the left stick. And I'm like, most people are right-handed. How like just by the law of averages, like that shouldn't be how that ended up. So I looked into it. So hockey's a little bit of a special case because you can still be right-handed and left-sticked because this is your ankle hand and this is how you control the angle of the stick. So it's a little bit different. But it led me down another rabbit hole. So there's some pretty cool it's game a little bit of game theory that goes into this. At the high school, at the Pee-wee, high school, and local level, right? You have a low concentration of people with left hands. I think it's 11% of the population in the United States is left-handed or something around there, right? It's a very small percentage. So you're going to see that at the very base level, 10 out of every 100 kids or something like that is going to be left-handed. So now in your sport, you're looking at, a team of 10, you might have one person who's left-handed. So that kid has an advantage of being awkward, which counts for a lot, especially when you're learning, because nobody practices against left-handed people. Like if you think of a boxer or in a pitcher, pitchers are the best example because at the pee-wee level, you're not getting a lot of practice against a left-handed pitcher because there's nobody who's left-handed. So you're not used to it. So the ones who are left-handed get a huge advantage at the lower level, and then what happens is those people make it to the next level, not just because they're awkward, obviously they still develop skill. And then a higher percentage makes it to the next level, right? So instead of seeing 11% of lefties at the collegiate level, right? When you're starting to get more selective, maybe you see 20%. Okay?
Interesting.
Yeah. And then they still gives you an advantage because there's not enough left-handed people to help you with practice. So those people can make it to the next level, which is the professionals, right? So like I said, pitchers are the best example because a left-handed pitcher has a much better chance of making it to the majors than a right-handed pitcher. All other things being equal, everything else being equal. But by the time you get to the pros, it levels off and you no longer have an advantage just from being a lefty. And that's why like it sifts out people the higher you go, and then you end up with a higher percentage of people who are left-handed. So all of that circling around to the presidents, I wonder if that plays a role in, because obviously, like you've heard the thing that people who are left-handed, their brains work differently. Because
yeah, I don't know.
Well, there is some bro science that we could just throw out there. This hand, your left hand, is controlled by the right side of your brain. So if you're more dexterous with your left hand and you have more fine motor control with your left hand and your left foot, that means your right brain is firing more active, right? So if you have and like the right brain, I know this is an oversimplification, but the right brain is the creative side and the left side is the analytical side. You might get more creative people who are left-handed because that side is more active. And if you look at actors, a lot of them are left-handed. It's kind of crazy how many actors are left-handed, and I wonder if that also plays a role in other aspects of life. And man, I wonder if they've done studies on that. That's really interesting.
See, I'm curious on that because I've also heard that a lot of the left brain, right brain stuff is kind of bullshit.
Great. So my argument is total crap. Oh, sweetness.
Like I know there's root in like obviously motor control and also like some root in what part of the brain's fired during certain functions, but I've also heard that it's way over exaggerated for how much function actually takes place in actual hemispheres of the brain. Like when people talk about left brain versus right brain people and like
yes,
some of that stuff. From what I've understand, it's been somewhat over exaggerated or like over relied on as a thing. So it's more driven by popular culture than actual science. Okay. I could be completely off on that.
No. And even if that's the case, if like at the base level, if there's a difference between people who are left-handed cognitively, if there's a difference between people who are left-handed and right-handed, does it give them an advantage in certain places over the other? And there's also left-handed people are more likely to be schizophrenic, more likely to be serial killers.
So more likely to be serial killers and presidents.
Yeah. So like they actually, they're, and the problem with, I forget the type of study it is when they study like the after effects of something. So like there's all the variables are just in there and it's not a controlled study. It's just an open one. So it's very hard to like pick out a single thing. So it's, like the chicken and the egg thing, like does being left-handed, like, is that like your brain is different and that's why you're crazy? Or is it because you're left-handed, you're treated differently your whole life and people make fun of you and that slightly leans you away from society or whatever? You know what I mean?
Legitimately, if you told me you were left-handed right now, I actually wouldn't know the difference. Like, I'm trying to think of, like, did I ever actually treat anyone differently because they were left-handed?
I mean, I make fun of people.
Well, that's just
it's because I'm
enough.
a dick.
So you're just part of the problem, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Making the next generation of serial killers.
It's just weird. Look, you're not gonna tell. Okay, you are not gonna tell me right now that when you see someone, you're like, hey, when you see someone go up to the board and write something on the whiteboard, you're not going to tell me when they raise that left hand and they start going at it. You're not like, and like there isn't a part of your brain that like skips a step and is like, wait, what?
No,
that's weird.
Honestly,
really?
No. It does not.
Oh man,
like catch me off guard at all.
One of my best friends is left-handed, and I give him crap for it all the time.
Interesting. Yeah, it just sounds like you're a bad person. Is all you're trying to say.
Well, it's because I'm not going to disagree with you. Like, of course I am. But also, we play a lot of sports, right? Like racket sports, and we like tennis, ping pong, racquetball. We've played a lot of basketball, and whenever he goes left-handed or like we do something and he's left-handed, it throws everybody off, right?
Yeah.
So also, he's one of my best friends. We rag on each other like crazy.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah, and it makes him different. So, I'm scared by things that are different, and I just want to make fun of him for it. That's all.
Hey,
I don't see the problem. What's the harm in making fun of people that are different than you? I don't understand.
listen, if there's anything we've learned from history, absolutely nothing is wrong with
I know.
that. Yeah. Never results in anything bad happening.
All the best things in history happen because people that were different than you were treated differently. That's just how it is.
I mean, if you generalize it that much, that's actually kind of true. Different people getting treated differently does lead to some of the best things in human history, but also some of the worst.
Yeah, there's it's I don't know what it is. Like when I see someone right left-handed, it does throw me off. It's weird looking. Also, they have to have, those bullshit desks, which are
Oh,
terrible to begin with. I hate those desks with a passion. You can't fit a book on there. You can't fit anything on them.
did they
You know
get
the
smaller? Like, did
Yeah,
desks?
yeah,
I swear, desks got smaller, right?
yes.
Okay.
Americans got larger and desks got smaller. Um,
It's like fucking airline seats. That shit got smaller.
yeah. So the ones that have the connected platform, like the
Yeah.
connected desktop to the chair, and you can't move it.
Yeah.
There was always that one left-handed one in class. And like, if you got stuck with that one, you're like, "Damn it! I can't. This sucks."
Wow. I think my school just didn't give a shit. I don't think we ever added a left-handed one. Now that I'm thinking about it, maybe that's why I never noticed
Yeah,
it.
you probably didn't. Maybe you didn't have any left-handed people in your school.
Oh no, we definitely did. Like I had friends that were left-handed. I'm just trying to think. Like I don't think I ever saw one of those desks be left-handed though. I might have just blocked out a lot from high school and just not remember that though.
Well, it's active in my mind because
All right.
I just finished college, so
You were going to in-place college, not an online college like me.
it's the same thing.
I know.
At this point, it's all the same thing, man. There's no
Listen,
difference.
I'm I'm just waiting for when high school starts to get turned into an online course.
I don't want to get too deep into this because we should
Yeah,
probably
I
get
gotta
going.
wrap up soon.
I had to go put the girls to bed. But uh, the girls are homeschooled, and I'm hearing a lot of people being more and more interested in homeschooling.
Yeah, my sister homeschools all three of her kids.
So, first of all, it's not for everybody. It's a
Nope.
lot of work. But it's a lot of work in a way that you just have to do it. It's not like an overwhelming amount. Like, oh, you're gonna have to build this giant building by yourself.
I will say,
Yeah.
I think one of the most interesting thing I learned from my sister when she started homeschooling, the hardest part is not what you think it is. The hardest part is not like getting into the nitty gritty of like, math and science that you just hadn't checked out in a long time. The hardest part is like teaching them to read from scratch or teaching them the initial parts of math. Like just getting that from nothing to math and nothing to reading, she said was the hardest part because then everything else builds off of that. So once you get the baseline there, like it's good and you just have to show up and make sure that you're like doing it and making sure they understand it. But the hardest part for her with all three of her kids was like that initial part of getting them to understand the basics.
So this is like kind of what I was getting at is like what you're saying is like the hardest part is that initial part, but you can start so much earlier when you're
Totally.
homeschooling. So my oldest was doing things like she's been a grade ahead in at almost everything and 2 grades ahead in a lot of things, based off of the curriculum for our school district. So it's one of those things where if you want to do it and you can do it if you have the ability, because it's not for everybody, and I'm not trying to talk anybody into it. I think it provides a better experience with a well-rounded life. So here's the problem: like, remember the stereotype of homeschooled kids when we were growing up?
That is so not even close to true
No,
nowadays.
okay. I like how you said nowadays, because back then,
There was a little truth to it.
yeah, because they were, very isolated, and they tend to have parents who were very controlling and didn't want them involved with other people's lives and those kinds of things. But if you live an active life where you're exposed to the outside quite a bit, and like for us, it just happens to be the gym. I don't want every talk to just devolve into gym talk, but for us, we go to the gym together. They go to the store together. They do everything. They go
Yeah.
they go out. They go to the library a lot. They go to museums. They go to the arboretum. So they're relatively active, and we are relatively active as a family. So they have plenty of interaction with other kids, other families, other people, lots of other adults, everything, right?
Yeah.
So if you just add in curriculum to that, it's not there's no real issue that I can see.
Also, school is super distracting.
Yeah,
I think I would have done better in homeschooling.
I wouldn't have, because my mom.
Okay. Well, that's that's a fair point. I think I would have done better if like I just had a tutor that homeschooled me. Or I think I would have done better. I think I might have actually done better if I went to an all boys school.
Yeah,
Which like
you know what?
would not
I think everybody would.
which, obviously 15-year-old me would have been like, oh, this sucks. But honestly, like looking back on it, I think that might have been a better learning environment. 'Cause God, school's fucking distracting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
everything
So
I've heard from people that I've met nowadays that went to all boys schools, they were like, "Oh, thank God I was at an all boys school," or else like,
there's, I mean, there's positive and negatives to all
yeah,
that stuff. But like I said, if you live a relatively well balanced life and you
yeah,
are outgoing and you do things, you're going to have those experiences where you meet people anyway.
yeah,
And
just outside of school.
yeah, like the idea of my favorite quote about this, like we can end on this. Like my favorite quote is from Neil deGrasse Tyson. Like he has the best way of putting this. It's like when you're a baby, the first thing they teach, like the first thing, all everybody's trying to get you. Come on, talk, stand up, let's move, walk, run, stand up, come on, talk. The second you get in the school, sit down, shut up, stay still, don't move. It's
Yeah.
like you spend the first 2 years of your life learning to move and talk and be active, and then the rest of your youth is spent sitting still for 8 hours a day.
And then you wonder why people suck at public speaking when they get out of high school. So, it is a small percentage of our population that's good at that.
Um, okay, yeah. I remember.
Sorry, that's my own personal pet peeve.
No. Like when I was in college, when I was in what college class was I in? Communications or something, like where you have to give speeches all the time. Oh, watching those 19-year-old kids like squirm in their seats. They're just like, oh, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And I'm like, what do you mean? You just go up there and talk. Like, what? I don't understand the big deal. Why don't you
Yeah.
just go talk?
All right. Yes, that's my own just personal pet peeve of what is not developed in our society. People do not learn how to speak.
Yeah, we have a lot of very self-conscious people who are not comfortable in their own skin, and they're not comfortable with a lot of things about themselves, and they don't want to expose that to the rest of the world.
Yeah. Well, on that bright note, I'm gonna
I
go get some.
love everyone.
I know, right? Hey, and yes, I do love everyone.
In general, most people,
Yeah.
dude, I've met so many people in my life, more than most people ever meet in a lifetime, and most of them, I don't. It sounds terrible, but I don't remember, and that's probably a good thing because I've had a neutral or positive reaction with most of them. Interaction.
Yeah.
Very, very rarely do I meet like a total dickhead.
Yeah, and also as I've gotten older, very rarely do I meet a total dickhead that is just a dickhead. I've met some people that can rub me the wrong way, but I've also noticed sometimes it's a result of just the position they're put in.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I've become more cognizant of that as I've gotten older too. Like if I have a boss that is doing things I don't like, most of the time it's because shit is rolling downhill to that boss from someone that
Yeah.
is also putting him in that position.
Yeah.
And he's just trying to keep his head above water, vice versa. Like I think even people that maybe have rubbed me the wrong way in the past, looking back on it, I don't think they were actually bad people. I think they're just in a rough situation.
Yeah, like you don't know what's going on in their life. Maybe they're going through a bad breakup or they're having financial issues and they, a lot of those things. But
absolutely.
Every so often you meet a Nate and you have a best friend for life.
A lunch bro.
All right, dude. You have a great weekend. Enjoy the nights of fights, and I will see you later. Anybody who's still listening, you guys are amazing, and I love all of you.
Yes, this is awesome, and thank you for taking part in our efforts to maintain such a good friendship. It's a big part of what this is. I really do.
I know. Yeah, like I admit, that's probably my favorite part of this whole thing is being able to talk to you, like again, like constantly because we're on opposite sides of the country, sort of.
I mean, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.